Sam had always thought college life would be normal, maybe a little lonely at times, but manageable. He had imagined himself sitting in classrooms, making friends slowly, and enjoying small victories of independence. He did not expect to be assigned an alien roommate, someone from a completely different world, with customs and traditions he could barely understand. Her name was Vela, and she was nothing like he had imagined. She was tall, elegant, and her skin shimmered faintly in colors that seemed alive, like moonlight reflecting off water. Her eyes glowed with a soft violet light, and even when she was silent, there was something commanding about her presence. The first day they met, Sam was nervous. He had seen aliens in movies, in holograms, and in textbooks, but never standing in front of him, looking at him with curiosity and hesitation. Vela's voice was soft, melodic, and carried a tone of sadness he couldn't quite place. "Hello," she said, bowing slightly. Sam felt awkward and waved back. Hi, I'm Sam." That was all he could manage. There was a long silence, broken only by the sound of his own heartbeat. Then the housing officer arrived to explain something Sam could hardly believe. According to Vela's culture, the officer said, roommates must share a bed for the first month. It is a tradition, a way to form trust and emotional connection. Sam blinked. He thought he had misheard. "Share a bed?" he asked. Vela nodded, her expression calm, but her eyes flickered with hesitation. "It is necessary," she said quietly. Sam laughed nervously. "Seriously, a bed?" The officer did not smile. "It is important. Respect her tradition. You will understand why soon." Sam felt a mix of anxiety and disbelief. He had never slept in a shared bed with anyone outside his family. The idea seemed impossible, awkward, even uncomfortable. Yet he also noticed Vela's subtle trembling, a quiet tension in her shoulders. She wasn't forcing him to do anything. She was simply following her people's tradition. That night, Sam entered their dorm room carrying his small suitcase. The room was simple but cozy, with 2 desks, a shared wardrobe, and a single bed against the wall. Sam's stomach twisted as he looked at it. The mattress was wide enough for 2, but the thought of lying so close to someone he barely knew made him freeze. Vela was already there, sitting cross-legged on one side of the bed, her hands resting on her lap. She seemed distant, almost fragile, as if carrying a weight Sam could not see. I guess I'll sit here," Sam said, perching on the edge of the mattress. Vela looked at him and nodded faintly, not speaking. The silence stretched, heavy and awkward, but not unpleasant. Sam noticed the faint shimmer of her skin, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, and the tiny tremble of her fingers. Something inside him softened. She wasn't scary or strange. She was simply hurting. Hours passed and sleep did not come. Sam tried lying down, keeping as much distance as possible, but he found himself glancing at her. She stared at the ceiling, lost in thought, her violet eyes distant and sad. Finally, unable to contain himself, Sam whispered, "Are you okay?" There was no immediate answer. She blinked slowly, and for a moment it felt like he had touched something deep inside her. I am fine," she said softly, though her voice carried a tremor. This is just hard. I am not used to it. The ritual? It forces closeness, but sometimes it brings memories that are painful." Sam's heart sank. He realized that sharing the bed was more than a simple tradition. It was a test of patience, trust, and perhaps something much deeper he did not yet understand. He nodded slowly, unsure what to say, but determined not to make her feel uncomfortable. He stayed on the edge of the bed, letting the silence fill the room. Despite the tension, there was a strange warmth in the quiet, a sense that something important was beginning. Sam realized that Vela's tradition wasn't just about physical closeness. It was about connection, understanding, and opening up to another being in a way humans rarely did. As the night deepened, Sam felt his eyes grow heavy, but he did not move closer. He let Vela have her space, even as he sensed the quiet struggle she carried. Outside, the campus lights glimmered, and inside 2 very different beings lay awake, sharing a room, a bed, and a beginning neither of them fully understood. By the time Sam drifted into an uneasy sleep, he knew one thing for certain: his life had changed forever, and Vela's presence would challenge everything he thought he knew about trust, empathy, and the power of closeness. The next morning, Sam woke up feeling restless. His body ached from sleeping on one side of the bed, and his mind spun with questions about Vela and her strange customs. He had tried to sleep, to act normal, but the thought of sharing a bed with someone he barely knew had kept him awake most of the night. Still, when he opened his eyes, Vela was already sitting quietly, her violet eyes reflecting a soft inner light. She seemed calm, but there was a tension in her shoulders that told Sam she hadn't slept either. Vela spoke softly, almost as if she were confessing something. "This tradition, it is important to my people. We do not see it as strange. Sharing a bed allows us to feel each other's emotions. Joy, sorrow, fear, love. We sense it all." Sam frowned, trying to understand. "So it's not romantic?" he asked, hesitating. Vela shook her head gently. "No, it is not about desire. It is about understanding. If we share this space, we learn about each other. It builds trust even if it is uncomfortable at first." Sam nodded, though he still felt unsure. The idea of lying next to someone, even a roommate, was strange. But the more he looked at her, the more he realized there was pain hidden beneath her calm voice. He could see the faint quiver of her hands, the way her eyes darted at the ceiling like she was searching for something lost. Something about Vela's presence tugged at his heart, and he felt a strange responsibility toward her. Over the next few days, Sam tried to adapt. He followed the unspoken rules of distance, careful not to make her feel uncomfortable, and tried to engage in casual conversation. "Do you like Earth food?" he asked one night while they ate in the small dorm kitchen. Vela hesitated, then smiled faintly. "It is different, but I like it. Simple tastes are comforting." That small smile was enough to make Sam feel a warmth in his chest. He realized this ritual, this shared bed, was giving him a chance to connect with someone in a way he had never experienced. Yet, despite the conversation and the small smiles, Sam could see the sadness she carried. One night while they lay in the shared bed, he noticed her trembling slightly. "Vela, are you okay?" he asked softly. She turned her glowing eyes toward him, shimmering with something like fear. I am not ready," she whispered. "The ritual is meant to bring closeness, but sometimes it brings memories I cannot face." Sam felt his heart tighten. He had expected discomfort, maybe awkwardness, but not this depth of sorrow. He realized that beneath the alien tradition was a very human pain, one that transcended species or customs. Sam wanted to pull away, to give her space, but something inside him said to stay. He sensed that the tradition was not only a rule but a cry for understanding. Vela needed someone to be near her, even if she could not yet speak her grief aloud. For the first time, Sam understood that traditions were not just habits. They could be a way to heal, to connect, to feel less alone. That evening, he decided to act differently. Instead of sitting rigidly at the edge of the bed, he moved closer, careful not to crowd her. "We don't have to talk," he said gently. "We can just be here, together." Vela's eyes softened, and she gave a small nod. For the first time, they lay in the same bed without tension, without fear. Just two beings sharing the quiet of the night. The silence was not empty. It was filled with something unspoken, trust, care, and the beginning of understanding. Days passed, and the ritual continued. Sam noticed small changes. Vela's shoulders were less tense, her movements calmer, and sometimes she laughed quietly at his clumsy attempts to make her smile. The bed, once a source of discomfort and anxiety, became a space of connection, a shared ground where neither felt alone. Sam realized that the tradition, strange as it seemed, was more than a rule. It was a bridge between two worlds, two lives and two hearts. By the end of the second week, Sam found himself respecting the ritual, not because he had to, but because he saw its power. It forced honesty, vulnerability, and patience. And even if Vela never said it aloud, he knew she felt less burdened, less alone, simply because someone had stayed with her in the quiet darkness, sharing her bed and sharing her pain. That night, as they both drifted into sleep, Sam thought about how traditions often seemed strange from the outside, but up close they could be beautiful, healing, and human, even across the stars. And he knew that whatever happened in the coming weeks, the bond they were forming would stay with him forever. By the middle of the week, Sam had begun to notice subtle changes in Vela. She was quieter than usual, more withdrawn, and sometimes her hands trembled without reason. It was as if the ritual meant to create closeness had awakened something painful she had been trying to hide. Sam felt a mix of worry and helplessness. He didn't know her world, her history, or the depth of her loss, but he could feel her sorrow as clearly as if it had been his own. One night, As the dorm grew quiet and the moonlight spilled across their shared bed, Sam could no longer ignore the tension in the air. Vela lay on her side, facing the wall, her glowing eyes reflecting a soft internal light. Something about her posture, the slight shaking of her fingers, told Sam that she was carrying more than just fatigue. His heart ached for her. He whispered her name softly, almost afraid to disturb her. "Vela, are you hurting?" For a moment there was no reply. The silence was heavy, almost unbearable. Then she slowly turned her head toward him. Her violet eyes were shining, but this time with tears. Sam froze. He had never seen an alien cry, never imagined how delicate and raw their emotions could appear. She began, her voice trembling. "I should not have agreed to this so soon. Being close like this, it brings back memories I'm not ready to face." Sam's chest tightened. "Memories?" he asked gently, leaning closer without touching her. She nodded, her eyes brimming with sadness. "I lost someone important before I came here. On my planet, the ritual is supposed to comfort, to create bonds. But for me, it only reminds me of what I lost. I cannot stop thinking about them." He swallowed hard. The alien tradition he had initially found strange was now more than a rule. It was a window into her pain. Sam realized that this ritual, meant to build trust, had also forced her grief to surface, and she had no choice but to confront it in the quiet moments of shared space. He felt the weight of her sorrow like a physical presence pressing against his chest. I don't know what to say," Sam admitted, his voice soft. "I can't fix it. I can't make it better." But even as he spoke, he realized that perhaps she didn't need answers or solutions. Maybe she only needed someone to sit with her in the pain, to acknowledge it without judgment. Vela's trembling lessened slightly as Sam stayed near. She spoke in whispers, telling him fragments of her story, the loss of her sibling, the loneliness of arriving on a new planet, the fear of being different. Each word was heavy, each pause filled with unsaid sorrow. Sam listened, his heart breaking with each confession, but he did not interrupt. He simply offered presence, letting her know she was not alone. Hours passed in quiet conversation. Sam suggested nothing, did nothing dramatic. He simply kept close, careful not to crowd her, yet close enough that she could feel his calm presence. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Vela relaxed. The tears stopped falling for a while. Her hands, which had been shaking, now rested calmly in her lap. For the first time that night, she looked at him and smiled. Not a full smile, not even a happy one, but a small, grateful curve of her lips. Sam realized something profound. Pain was universal. It didn't matter that she was alien. With glowing skin and violet eyes, she felt loss, grief, and loneliness the same way humans did. And presence, simply being there, was often more powerful than words, advice, or distant comfort. Before they fell asleep, Vela whispered, almost to herself, "Thank you for staying. I did not expect anyone to understand." Sam only nodded, a lump forming in his throat. He did not say he understood completely because he couldn't, but he could feel enough to give her solace. That night, in the quiet dorm room, two very different beings lay side by side, sharing a bed and the weight of sorrow. The alien ritual had forced closeness, but what truly mattered was the human act of compassion, patience, and silent support. Sam knew that the bond between them had deepened, that their lives had intertwined in a way he could not have anticipated, and that Vela's pain had become a bridge instead of a wall. And as sleep finally overtook them, Sam silently vowed that he would be there for her through the next nights, through the ritual and whatever memories or sorrows it forced her to face. Because some connections were too important to abandon, and some hearts, no matter what planet they came from, needed someone to simply sit with them in the dark. The days that followed were softer, quieter. Something had changed between Sam and Vela. Not suddenly, not with grand words or dramatic gestures, but gently, like a door opening inch by inch. The shared bed no longer felt like a strange rule forced upon them. Instead, it became a space where both of them could breathe, where silence was not awkward but comforting. Sam noticed that Vela spoke more now. Not a lot and never loudly, but she tried. She would comment on the taste of their meals, the colors of the sky at sunset, or the strange human habits she found amusing. One evening, as they walked to their dorm after class, she stared at a group of students laughing loudly and said, "Your people show emotion so openly. It is beautiful, Sam smiled. We're loud. Sometimes too loud. Vela tilted her head thoughtfully. No, loud is better than silent pain. Her words stayed in Sam's mind long after they returned to the dorm. That night, when they lay on the bed, the air felt different. There was no tension, no distance. Vela did not curl away to the far edge, and Sam did not try to make himself small. They simply existed side by side, breathing the same air, sharing the same warmth. Sam glanced at her, watching the soft silver shimmer of her skin in the dim light. "Thank you for telling me about your sibling," he said, speaking carefully. He knew how delicate the topic was. Vela closed her eyes, and for a moment Sam feared he had said the wrong thing. But then she whispered, "I was afraid. On my world, we do not speak of our wounds. We show strength always." Sam shook his head slowly. "But strength doesn't mean silence. Sometimes it means letting someone be there." Vela opened her eyes again, and this time they were not filled with pain alone. There was warmth, faint but real. "You speak like someone much older than your years," she murmured. Sam laughed quietly. "No, I know what loneliness feels like." The room fell quiet again. Not uncomfortable, just soft, natural. The next day, Sam surprised her. He brought home a small potted plant. Nothing special, just a small green sprout in a clay pot. "I thought maybe we could take care of it together," he said. Vela stared at the plant for a long moment. Sam wondered if he had misunderstood something important in her culture. But then she reached out and gently touched the leaf. "On my planet, we have gardens of crystal vines," she said. "They are tended by families together. It is considered a bond." Sam blinked, surprised. "So, is this okay?" Vela nodded, and her voice was soft when she answered. "Yes, it is. Very kind." From that day on, the plant sat on their windowsill, catching sunlight in the mornings. It gave the room a small touch of life, a symbol of something growing slowly but surely, just like the bond they shared. At night, they continued their quiet ritual of falling asleep beside one another. One evening, as a cool breeze entered through the slightly open window, Vela shifted closer, not touching him, but close enough that Sam could feel her presence more clearly than ever. "Can I ask something?" she whispered. "Of course, do humans comfort those they care about by holding them? I have observed it, but I do not know if it is allowed." Sam felt his heart stop for a moment. He didn't want to misunderstand. "Yes," he answered carefully, "but only if both people want it." Vela hesitated just a few seconds, but those seconds felt like the earth paused. Then she whispered, I would like that, just for a moment." Slowly, so slowly. Sam shifted his arm around her shoulders. She leaned gently, carefully, as if afraid she might break. Her body trembled once, then relaxed. No words were spoken. None were needed. Her grief did not disappear. His concern did not vanish. But in that quiet embrace, something healing began to take shape. Not forced, not artificial, real. The kind of connection that grows when two souls stop hiding from their pain and choose to face it together. That night, they slept peacefully for the first time. Days passed, and the quiet comfort between Sam and Vela grew into something gentle and real. It was not fast or dramatic. It was slow like a sunrise, steady like the growth of the little plant on their windowsill. Their shared bed became a place of peace, not awkwardness. They no longer lay stiffly apart. They didn't always touch, but the space between them was no longer filled with fear. Sam noticed small changes in Vela. She began to hum softly while studying, low melodies that sounded like wind flowing through crystal chimes. She started asking him questions, not just about Earth, but about him. "What was your home like?" she asked one late afternoon. Sam leaned back in his chair, thinking. "Small," he said, "but warm. My parents worked a lot, so I spent most of my time alone. I always wished someone was there to share things with." Vela looked at him gently. "And now?" Sam smiled faintly. "Now, I don't feel alone." Vela's eyes softened, and her voice lowered. "Neither do I." The change between them didn't come from grand confessions or deep speeches. It came from quiet things, shared meals, short conversations, studying side by side in silence, tending to the plant every morning. Each act was simple, but together they created something meaningful: trust. One evening, rain tapped softly against the window. The campus outside was dark and calm. Sam and Vela sat at the small table finishing dinner. Sam had attempted to cook something new, and though it came out slightly burnt, Vela ate it without complaint. "It is interesting," she said, trying to find the right word. Sam laughed. "It's terrible, isn't it?" Vela blinked once. Then slowly a laugh escaped her, soft but real. It was the first time Sam had heard her laugh like that. His chest warmed, and he couldn't stop smiling. But healing was not a straight path. Some nights Vela still trembled in her sleep. Sometimes she woke up suddenly, breath shaking as if caught between two worlds, one where her siblings still lived, and the one where she had lost them. When that happened, Sam didn't speak. He didn't ask questions. He simply placed his hand near hers, not touching unless she reached back, and sometimes she did. One night, she whispered into the quiet darkness, "On my world, grief is carried alone. To show it is considered weakness." Sam listened. Vela continued, voice trembling. "But when I hide it, it grows heavier. It crushes me. I do not know how to set it down." Sam turned his head to look at her, their faces close in the dim glow of the streetlight outside. "Then don't carry it alone anymore," he said softly. "You don't have to." She did not answer, but the silence that followed was not distant. It was full, deep, and warm. The next morning, Vela did something unexpected. She moved the plant pot to the side and carefully placed a small, translucent crystal beside it. The crystal glowed faintly like a captured star. "This," she said, "is a memory stone. My people use it to honor those who have passed. When we are ready, we place it somewhere shared, so the memory is no longer held by only one heart." Sam's breath caught. He understood even without explanation what this meant. This was not just a token, it was trust. It was bond. It was letting go. They stood together by the window, watching the morning light touch both the little plant and the shimmering stone. No words were needed. Their connection had become something steady, not forced by tradition anymore, but chosen. It was not romantic, but deeply tender. It was the quiet closeness that grows only when two souls recognize each other's pain and decide not to step away. That night when they lay down to sleep, Vela did not hesitate. She rested her head lightly near Sam's shoulder, not leaning fully, just enough to say, without words, "I trust you." Sam did not move or speak. He simply breathed in the same slow rhythm she did. And for the first time since arriving on Earth, Vela slept through the night without waking. The bond was real now, and both of them could feel it. The bond between Sam and Vela had grown steady and strong, like roots slowly weaving into the earth. But no bond, no matter how gentle or sincere, grows without being tested. The test came quietly, without warning, without dramatic signs, just a small moment that shook everything. It began on a cold evening. The sky outside their dorm was gray and heavy, the air filled with the scent of rain. Sam returned from class to find Vela sitting at the desk, hands stiff, her shoulders tense. She was staring at a small glowing device, one from her homeworld. He hadn't seen it before. "Vela?" Sam asked softly. She didn't look up. Her voice was low, tight, like it was wrapped in pain. "I received a message today." Sam stepped closer but didn't touch her. "From your family?" She nodded once. Her hands tightened around the device. "They say they want me to return home. There is a ceremony for my sibling. One final farewell." Sam felt a mix of emotions, sadness for her loss and fear of what this meant for them. "That sounds important," he said carefully. Vela's breath shook. "Yes, it is important, but returning means everything begins again. The traditions, the expectations, the silence." Sam understood instantly. Going back meant burying her grief, not healing it. It meant going back to a world where pain was hidden, where mourning was not spoken, where she would be alone again. "What do you want?" Sam asked quietly. For the first time since he had met her, Vela's voice broke. "I don't know. I don't know what I want anymore." Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She pressed the heels of her palms against them, as if trying to push the emotion away. Sam didn't speak. He knew she wasn't ready to be comforted. The silence that followed was heavy, different from the gentle silences they shared before. This one was full of confusion, fear, and the weight of choices that could not be undone. That night when they went to bed, Vela did not move closer like she usually did. She lay on her side, turned away from him. Sam didn't try to reach for her. He could feel the storm inside her, and he didn't want to make it worse. But he also could not sleep, because the thought of her leaving felt like something tearing inside him. He didn't know when he started caring so deeply. It wasn't love in the romantic sense, not yet. It was something slower, deeper, like two souls that had learned to breathe together. Hours passed. The room was still. Then Vela whispered into the darkness, voice fragile. "Sam, am I selfish if I stay?" The question hit him like a wave. He turned toward her. "No," he said softly. "Wanting to heal is not selfish." Vela slowly turned to face him, her eyes wet and shining. "My people believe we must endure pain alone. But since meeting you, I realized something." Sam listened, heart beating hard. Vela's voice was barely a breath. "I do not want to be alone anymore." Something in Sam's chest loosened, warmth, relief, and something deeper. He moved closer, not rushing, not grabbing, just offering presence. She didn't hesitate this time. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest. Sam placed his arm around her carefully, like holding something precious. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The quiet was gentle again. Soft. Safe. Finally, Vela whispered, "I'm afraid." Sam exhaled slowly. "Me too." But they stayed like that, together. The next morning, Vela made her decision. She sat by the plant and the memory stone, fingers touching both. She closed her eyes and breathed slow and deep. "I will not return yet," she said. Her voice was steady, not weak, not unsure. Steady. Sam nodded, not smiling, not cheering, just understanding. This was not a victory. This was courage, real courage. They would still face grief. They would still face uncertainty. But they would face it together. And that made all the difference. That night, when they lay down to sleep, Vela rested her head against Sam's shoulder once more. But this time, her breathing was calm. She was not running from her pain anymore. She was learning to live with it, one shared heartbeat at a time. Time passed softly after Vela's decision. Days were calm, almost gentle. There were no sudden storms, no arguments, no tears overflowing. But the world inside both Sam and Vela had changed. Something quiet and deep had taken root between them, growing like a steady flame. They continued their routine, studying, eating meals together, caring for the plant by the window. But now, when they shared the bed, the silence felt warmer, more natural, not because it was tradition, but because it was theirs. Yet healing was not simple. Pain does not disappear just because someone decides to stay. Some days Vela was quiet, her expression distant, eyes lost in memories of home. Sam learned not to ask too quickly, not to fill the silence with questions. Instead, he simply stayed close, offering presence instead of pressure. And she learned to speak when she needed to. Words like, "I miss them," and "Today I am tired." Those words were small, but for her they were victories. One evening, winter finally arrived. Snowflakes drifted outside the window, glowing softly under the campus lights. Sam and Vela sat on the floor wrapped in blankets. They shared a hot drink, something Sam made from earth chocolate powder. Vela always said it was too sweet, but she still drank it. The room was warm, quiet, peaceful. But Vela's expression changed. Sam noticed immediately. "What is it?" he asked. Vela looked down at her hands. They trembled slightly. "I have been thinking," she said gently. "About home. About my people. About the tradition of sharing rest with someone you trust." Sam listened, waiting. "When my sibling died," she continued, "I was angry at my world. I did not want to return to the rules that forced us to hide pain." Sam nodded slowly. "But these past days, I realized something," Vela whispered. "The tradition was never meant to trap us. It was meant to protect us. To remind us that we are not meant to face sorrow alone." "I misunderstood." Sam's breath softened. "So now, what do you want to do?" Vela breathed in slowly as if gathering strength. "I want to honor them," she said. "Not by returning home to silence, but by living in a way they could not. By letting myself heal. By letting myself be seen." Sam felt something warm spread through his chest. Not relief, not hope. Something deeper. Something like trust. Vela leaned slightly closer, her head almost touching his shoulder. "When I arrived here, I did not understand humans. I did not understand comfort. I did not understand what it meant to share a bed with someone." Her voice softened, trembling only slightly. "Now I do. It means safety. It means being allowed to breathe. And you gave that to me." Sam swallowed, his voice quiet. "You gave that to me, too." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full. Vela looked up at him with those glowing eyes no longer clouded by fear. "Sam," she whispered, "may I stay beside you? Not because of tradition, not because of duty, but because I choose to." Sam's answer was simple and steady. Yes, it was not dramatic. It did not need to be. It was truth. She smiled then, a small, soft smile. The kind that comes from the heart, not the face. That night, when they lay down to sleep, Vela rested her head against his shoulder like before. But this time their hands slowly found each other, fingers intertwined, not out of need but choice. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Inside, warmth filled the room like a quiet fire. Sam closed his eyes. Vela listened to his heartbeat. For the first time since she had arrived on Earth, she felt at peace, not because her pain was gone, but because she no longer faced it alone. In that small dorm room, on a simple bed shared by two souls from different worlds, something extraordinary happened. Two hearts chose each other, and that choice was enough.